builders and fabricators on this stage to show you their skills live and in person. Watch as they chop, grind, and weld their creations into existence right before your very eyes. Feel free to ask questions at any time directly to your host, Pat Jansen. The doors to the shop are open, so pull up a stool, kick back, and welcome to the Grease and Gears Garage.
All right, Grease and Gears Garage. I'm Pat Jansen here in Sturgis, 79th Annual Sturgis Motorcycle Rally. Man, I tell you, it's been a good one. It's been a good one. You know, attendance is a little down because we're waiting for the 80th. Everybody's waiting for the 80th. But I tell you what, it's a perfect year to be out here because there's no lines. It's good this year.
I can't believe it's only Tuesday.
Yeah, it's only Tuesday.
It's only Tuesday.
Man, it's Saturday. I got here Saturday. I keep thinking it's the next. I thought it was Wednesday all day today, man. It's been tough. Had a lot of cool stuff already happen though. We did, you know, Chris and Heather Recycle Source have always got cool stuff going on. We did the Baker burnout drags last night here. Man, that went over.
Really bringing that up right now already?
We got one of the stars of the show last night right here.
Dan and I got up there and we embarrassed ourselves. We slunk off with our tails between our legs.
I did too.
We won't even talk about you, brother.
It was a lot of fun though.
And I was a returning champion. I have a plaque at home on my wall for that.
I know, man. I thought Chris was going to take it all, but you know, it cost Chris and I a clutch each. So what the deal? But no, we're here. We've had a great day today. We've had a lot of good stuff. We had the performance bike show was here that Little Evil puts on, Little Evil Incorporated does. But all that has just been building the suspense. It's the climax right now. If you ever wanted to know what a climax looks like, this is it. Roadside Marty, our climax. So, and we're also going to be interviewing Dan over here. Dan, you guys see him at all the events, whether you want to or not. So we're going to be talking to Dan and seeing what his deal is. Everybody's like, what's that guy's deal? Is he a rock star? Is he a porn star?
Both. A little bit of both.
Is he a movie star?
Movie star. What
that kind of movie star?
Well, we're going to start with Roadside and Chris over here. Roadside, what have you brought us to Grease and Gears Garage today?
All right. Today's lesson in Harley-Davidson technology is engine case line boring, or
making ice cream.
Or how to make sure your stuff is perfectly in balance so it doesn't rattle itself out of the engine, out of the frame. Now, Chris was fortunate enough to come down when he was building the ticket. He wanted to paint. He had most of a pan head.
I didn't have most of a pan head. I had two cases and some cylinders.
And some jacked up heads. And a wrong cam cover.
Oh yeah.
And that was about it.
And I showed up like little orphan Annie. Please, Mr. Roadside.
Please help me.
Please ask your pappy to help us put this together.
But he thought he had a lot.
He thought he had a motor. He thought he had a motor. And I told him, I said, you know what? I said, well, I didn't tell him, but for the sake of being gentle with him, I said, yeah, we can build that motor. You know? And so I said, here's the deal. I said, if you want me and my dad to help you out, I said, you're going to my father said, you have to come down here and help put this together. And Chris said, seriously? I mean, he was in total shock, and I was in shock too, because my father is not the kind of guy that just helps people. I mean, people ask me all the time, hey man, I want to learn from your dad. I want to do this. I want to build motors. You know, next time you guys are building a motor, let me know. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to call you. You know, you better be ready to come. And they're like, all right. And I'll call him at like 10 o'clock at night. And I'm like, all right, he's ready to put the flywheels together. Well, man, I got to work for it. I'm like, hey, you wanted to know, my pops, he's retired. We're working on his schedule.
When the feeling strikes.
That's it. So if you want to come over and do it now, you better come on over. So he could do something at 8 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock at night. Or 2 weeks from now, or 2 days. I mean,
he's like the Holy Spirit. You never know when he's going to strike, but when he strikes
You never know when he's going to move.
Yeah, there you go.
So bearing in mind that for him to put down everything for a week, and focus solely on doing Chris's motor, and we put the force speed. Yeah, we did the
tranny too.
Yeah, we did transmission too.
Which I had more of the tranny than
He
I
did. The
motor.
transmission was about 80% complete. Yeah, it was about 80% complete.
He basically came to get some parts from you.
Yeah. Well, I knew what I was going to be working with, so beforehand.
You prepped your dad?
Well, I dug through. I pulled out the trusty V-twin catalog, and I ordered an oil pump, a cam chest kit, pistons.
Oh yeah.
Pistons and rings, a complete gasket kit. Didn't I get valves?
Yeah, valves.
Valves? Or no, we had valves. We had valves.
No, we had guides.
We had guides.
The guides. We got the valves.
And new pan covers, D-rings.
Good old Dixie boy, right in the box.
Oh yeah. Man, that was some chopper gold right there. Dixie Distributing was one of the original aftermarket companies. I mean, they kind of fell out in the late 80s and 90s, but in the late 60s to the mid 80s, Dixie Distributing, man, they had everything.
Yep.
A lot of engine stuff, a lot of stuff you would need. They had it. And so Chris got to see that and use some of the Dixie Distributing stash that we had at the time. But Chris's motor was a 49. Now, 49, anything knuckle 36 to 47 and anything pan 48 to 54 is what they call a tapered shaft motor, okay? Anything 55 and later, all the way up shovel heads, and Evos, early, I can't remember up to what year Evo, maybe 92 or 93, they went to the one-piece flywheels. But anyway, those are what they call Timken bearing motors. Now, it's just like Evos versus twin cams. Everybody has an opinion on a tapered shaft motor or a Timken bearing motor. Now, can you run a tapered shaft motor as hard as you run a Timken bearing? I don't think so. But in my mind, those motors at that age, you're not going to be trying to run them 90 miles an hour. I mean, if you want to build one and you want to put around maybe 65, 70 miles an hour tops, then there's nothing wrong with a tapered shaft motor in my opinion. I think they're good when they're put together correctly. You're not going to have a problem with them. Just know their limitations. With that being said, a lot of people, as much as I hate to say it, a lot of younger guys don't really, they get a tapered shaft motor and they think it's going to keep up with a twin cam or something. And they just beat it to shit.
Right.
Now,
those guys should probably just call S&S and buy one of the modern panhead motors from S&S.
That's exactly right, and that's what I suggest.
Right.
That's what I suggest to them. If they want performance with older iron, S&S hands down is the best. Now, on a Timken bearing lower end, they're more durable. They can hold up better to the higher speeds and modern day riding. Now, someone like Dan, what year's your lower end?
59.
59. That's a Timken bearing lower end. That's a good year. 59, those cases were really good. Not to say nothing about the early model pan cases, but later model pan cases had better oiling. The deck surfaces were a little stronger. The reinforcement ribs really did a good job. The engine mounts were a lot better. Just 55 and later seems to be better pan cases. The early ones were a little brittle. Now, when you're going about rebuilding a motor, and this is truly becoming like a lost art, you get a lot of people that say, oh yeah, the lower end, the motor's rebuilt. Well, to them, rebuilt may be a new set of rings and some base gaskets or a valve job or whatnot. Now, when I talk to someone like Chris or somebody like Dan, whenever I'm telling them, hey, this motor's rebuilt, it's literally rebuilt. I.e., case races, sprocket shaft side and pinion shaft side are replaced. I check everything, especially around the cam hole area and where the pinion shaft comes through, because these areas are really prone to cracking. Okay? Now, if you take a set of cases down, I like to have them bead blasted or soda blasted now. Soda blasting's come a long way because you need to be able to check critical areas like that to make sure there's no hairline cracks. Because if you've got a hairline crack to your pinion race or your cam bearing or your cam bushing or on your sprocket shaft side from your outer area to the inside where your bushing is, if you got cracks there, to me those cases are junk. Now some people try to reuse them, but to me,
Let's try to show everybody at home the areas you're talking about. Up here.
Oh, right here in this area, we got like a screwdriver or something like that to point with.
We'll get a little close in on that and show people the area he's talking about.
Now, the area I always check is right here to the side. I always go 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock. You look around there and you start, say at 12 o'clock, you go to 3. And you look in this entire area right here to see if there's any hairline or fracture cracks going out, spider webbing. And if there's nothing there, you go from 3 to 6 and you look. Now, the older we all get, the better a magnifying glass and a small flashlight helps. Especially, you know, now some guys use the dye or whatnot, but I'm not that advanced. I just do it visually. Because to me, any of these cases with the age they have, you're going to have small stress cracks in them. It just depends on where they're at. In the vital areas, you really got to be careful. Now, I do the same on the pinion shaft area. You look around there. Another thing on cases to really really look for is the breather area right here. This breather cavity allows the engine to breathe the mist from your oil, because when oil is compressed in an area with heat, it has to breathe. Now, most cases right here where the breather gear slips in, this area is very easy to, it's very brittle. As a matter of fact, I think that's a crack right there, Chris. Can you see that? Does that look like one right there?
Yeah, it does.
Does it?
I believe so. Let me grab something to help us look.
And what I'm talking about, Pat's right here. If you look right there, I think that's a small crack.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't have my glasses on, but
Need a
I
flashlight.
think that's one right. And this area is very, very brittle. It's really easy to break.
This is what I always have to do now.
I can't find the damn
There you
flashlight.
go.
You got it?
I took a picture up close.
That looks like a crack right there.
Yep, that's a crack.
Okay, these cases are cracked,
See if you
just
can
like
hold
I
that up
said.
there.
Right here, on the side of that, there's the crack.
So now, will that stop me from using these cases? No. If you want to use them, I would have that re-welded and beefed up. But it's not a deal breaker. This is critical, but it's not as critical as the case race or the cam bushing area. Now, a lot of people, there's another debate, as with everything Harley Davidson or engine. Do we use a plastic breather or do we use a steel breather? Plastic came in mid-AMF era, late 70s. There was a lot of refinements with the shovel cases, alternator motors and whatnot. Now, I've used both, and they both work fine for me. With the early ones, I do tend to stick with a steel breather. Now, once you have your breather in and your cams in, you'll take a straight edge and you'll lay it there across the cam surface.
I got
to
you
see.
some water. You need some
Thank you,
water?
brother.
Yeah. Take a.
Yelling at Danger Dan and you and
guys
Chris
are
last
fucking
night.
old.
They
Get
burn
your
out.
guys, yeah.
Glasses, can't talk, can't see.
Hey, don't make
Hey,
fun.
brother.
Don't make
At least
fun.
I'm still here.
You get old too.
You're going to get old one day. Just like that. Just like Chris showed. You do a straight edge across there, and it shows you what level of thickness your breather washer will need to be. So, once your breather gear is in there, you'll take and measure with a micrometer, and they give you that. You have everything set up. What you want to do. All right, I'm getting ahead of myself. An engine rebuild that I consider a rebuilt motor is you replace both the pinion bushing and the sprocket shaft bushing. Now, on the tapered shaft motors, 54 and earlier, you're going to have to line lap both case races. When I say line lap, what you're doing is you're making sure each case race is in concentric proportion to each side. That way the pinion shaft and the sprocket shaft are in perfect alignment when they're turning. That way when you have a true set of flywheels, they're going to run true inside your motor. Now, Chris was lucky. Whenever we did his, we replaced both races. Now, to replace the race, it is an extremely critical thing whenever you're doing this. You cannot put that race in any way, shape, or form crooked. It has to be perfectly straight in there.
It scared the hell out of me because it'll wreck the case.
It'll destroy the cases.
Yep.
So you have to be extremely careful when you do that. Not that guy again.
See, that's something you want to be sober for.
That's something you definitely won't be sober for.
I
Now,
won't be doing that at the shop.
A lot of lights and real good glasses.
a lot of lights, good glasses.
What it is, Walgreens,
Yeah.
is that?
So then, to replace the case races, what we've always done is we'll take with a torch or a handheld torch, one of those butane ones, and you heat this area. You heat the area where the race is. Around there, you just keep heating it and heating it. You don't want to get it cherry red because you don't want to do metal fatigue, but you want to get it hot enough where what we normally do is we have a solid drift that fits that case race. Now, the race is going to come in from the inside of the case. So what you're going to do is you're going to separate the cases, you're going to turn it on its side, and you're going to put that drift in there once this is heated up, and you're going to take and just tap it out. You might have to put a little bit of swing on there. If it's not coming out with somewhat decent taps, you're going to need to heat it more.
But you don't press that out then.
We don't.
Okay.
Okay. Now, again, most of the stuff I'm showing you, it's not in the manual, or it's something that me and my father have done for years, and it works for us. Because I've had numerous guys over the years come up to me, that's not how you do it. Well, I've been building bike, I'll be 50 in December, and I built my first bike when I was 15 with my dad. And I've been doing it the same way from the age of 15 to 50. So what's that, 35 years?
Yep.
Well, for 35 years, I've been doing it this way, and it seems to work for me.
Yeah.
Now, if they taught you another way in MMI or AMI, hey, more power to you, brother. I'm just telling you how I do it. So, once
It's like when you're fat and skinny people try to tell you how to lose weight, it just pisses me off.
yeah, kind of like that.
So you know what you're doing?
So,
Yeah.
once you get that knocked out, you want the area still to be hot. And then you flip it over and you knock the other race in the same way, just to reverse the process. Now, once that's in,
We lost Dan. He
Yeah,
lost
we-
interest. you
back.
bored him right out of his chair.
I think he went to get a notepad.
Oh, is that what it was? Yeah.
so you want to do the same thing on the pinion side as well. Now, like I said, all this time you're looking for cracks because you could just as easily crack the case if you're trying to knock it out crooked. Now, once it's in there, and this is for the tapered shaft motors, pre-54. You're going to take, once you get both of those in there, you're going to bolt the cases together with at least 3 sets of bolts. I usually go on the top one here, and then 2 of the case bolts on the bottom. You've got some, and another thing that a lot of people don't know about, some of these bolts, some of these case bolts are self-aligning. They're different. Instead of like a regular bolt that you see at a hardware store, it's got like a certain type shank machined into it. That lines the cases up perfectly. So I like to use the lineup bolts and that one whenever I do a set of cases because they're lined up perfectly and they're tight. You want to tighten them up, and then what you're going to do is you're going to start the process like what Chris and my dad call making ice cream. Now, when you do that, what you're going to use is this isn't, I don't know the technical term, but it's an arbor type tool. Now, the pieces involved in this, you've got a crank handle and you've got multiple pieces that you use. Now, some of these are for the late model Timken bearings. Some of these are for, like I said, tapered shaft motors. And some of these are for like 45 motors. They use the different sizes as well. Now
are these tools that you can still purchase?
They're hard.
Or you have to have a tool maker make them for you now?
you can still buy them, but they're getting harder to find. Certain companies like Eastman or Jim's.
Jim still makes them every once in a while.
Okay.
But you gotta look for them, and I've been waiting for them to come out with a set so we can get an order in for our shop.
Right.
They're hard to find.
Now, this is the piece that really is the money maker. And it's wrapped in a cloth now because we got lapping compound on it. Now, if you can see, that's your arbor, that's your stones right there. Now, this is the adjustment wrench that you hook in and adjust. Either you tighten or loosen. This is for a big twin. That's for a 45. And that's for, I believe, a Sportster. So, or no, that's for, this is for Sportsters and 45s. This is for big twins. This is for oversized. Now, what you're going to do, before we get ahead of ourselves there, all right, since this is a set of Timken bearing cases, this is the tool we'll use, or this is the adapter we're going to use. What you do is you'll take and you'll unscrew it like that, and if you got a set of Timken, you'll take your Timken bearing and you'll place it on there. And what you'll do is you'll come down through and you'll bring that through. Oh, sorry. You'll come and you'll put it like that and you'll screw that in. Or no, I'd have that wrong. You'll come in this way and your bearing will be on this and you'll screw this piece in. Just like that. Now, this case race has been taken out. So what we'll do, we're just going to simulate what's going to happen. Once you're going to get that Timken bearing in there, just like that, you're going to take and you're going to turn these cases around. And again, you're looking right here. What we're going to focus on is the pinion shaft bushing. So you take this and you slide it through. And you're going to line up with this other piece. See how the shaft comes out?
Right on.
And your Timken bearing's in there. Now, a Timken bearing lower end, it centers itself automatically. Whereas on a taper shaft, we'd have to do both sides. Now, turn that back around. And you use your adjustment tool to open this up to where it needs to go bigger or smaller. Now,
On that stone, the fingers are alternating, separated at the ends. So the more you close that thing together, the wider it gets.
And that's so on these, because on these stones,
It's cutting everything.
Yeah, and it's not a solid, you know, I don't know if you can see that.
So they actually, these fingers will actually open up
Yeah.
and tighten it.
Right. And that adjustment tool works that. Bigger or smaller. Now, whenever we're ready, what we'll do is we'll take and line that up, and then we'll take our adjustment handle. And there's a spot on here. There's an indent right there. You can see it. We'll take and line this set screw up right there. And what we'll do is we'll take our little Allen wrench and we'll put it right in there. We'll tighten that. Now, you want to use a generous amount of lapping compound on there. And what we're going to do is...
You want to go out to the front?
Yeah, we'll go right up front. Now, this is the part where Chris says, and my dad say, you're making ice cream, like an ice cream churn.
But there's a reason why.
So once this comes in, and we're in that race, you just slowly start turning just like that. And you want to keep going, and you're putting pressure on, and this arbor is slowly going in to that bushing. And you keep turning and turning and turning. And as you're putting pressure, it's going through. Because you've widened it out to where it's actually honing the bushing out while you're doing this. Now, you don't want to do it too much. So after you've done it for a few minutes, you'll take and you'll pull that out and you'll leave that other in there. And you'll take and clean out all the grooves on your arbor. Once you clean all that out, you'll take, and I use Brake Clean or WD-40, and you'll spray inside to that bushing area and you'll wipe it completely clean. And I'll let it set. Then I'll take the bushing, the pinion bushing, and I'll slide it in there once it's cooled down. And I cannot stress, you have to let it cool down. Because if you don't, the minute you stick those bearings in, they will lock in place.
Because you've created friction. That's where the heat came from.
Exactly.
It's that friction, and it just...
Well, and this is the reason why we call it making ice cream. People immediately say, well, hell, let's just put that on a drill. Because you can just get it done. But that heat is the worst thing that you can do. When we did my cases with his dad, I bet you it was 6 or 8 times that we did that for a little bit, pulled it apart, let it cool down, put it back together, measured everything, knew we had to go further, pulled it back apart, set up the hone again, a little bit more. It's a slow and tedious process, but if you want to have a bottom end in the motorcycle that doesn't have a harmonic imbalance, this is where it comes from. It starts from the core of the motor right here.
Absolutely.
And also, on a tapered shaft lower end like Chris's, people say, well, when you do what they call in play, sprocket shaft in play, even if your bearings are sized correctly to your race, you still have to do sprocket shaft in play. You put the flywheels into the case, use the 3 bolts, and you take, there's a small tool that screws onto the end of the shaft, and it's got a little arm with a set screw. You put that against the case, and you tighten it down, and then you pull. And when you pull on the flywheels, that will come out and show you. And you measure that distance, and that'll tell you what length or what size shim you need on your sprocket shaft. So then you'll take that out, and on your flywheels, you'll have brass washers. You measure those, and when you come up with that distance that pulled out, you put that on there. Now you've spaced your taper shaft, sprocket shaft. So a lot of people.
I gotta tell you about this because this part was especially a big treat at Pop's Roadside's place because he has a garage it's about getting the work done. You know what I mean? So there's parts everywhere. I mean, man has an amazing parts collection, amazing set of tools, but each place you go to in the shop is set up to do a specific thing. Like where this is happening that's the only thing.
It's
that
nothing but
happens
engine
right
work.
there. It's that bench and that spot, and everything that you need is within arm's reach. So hanging from the ceiling are these giant wires, and they 50, 60 different shims that are just hanging on there like somebody slid old keys together, you know? And he'll whip them down off there, and they untwist, and he sits there measuring through them, find the right one. There's one there. You know what I mean? Like, that's how long that cat's been doing it, man. Like, but every spot, it's just such a beautiful environment to work in.
Yeah.
Now, like I said before, on a Timken bearing lower end, you don't have to do the sprocket side. You only do the pinion side. And again, it's the same. You're turning it. After a while, you pull it out, clean everything, let it cool off, do that. Sprocket shaft tapered shaft lower ends are extremely time consuming because you're having to do both sides. And you've got to get them both the same size. So if you got a set of 20 over bearings, you're steadily going until you get both sides at 20 thousandths. And like I said, it might take you 4 or 5 hours before you're done. Like,
took us most of the day on the pan head.
Yeah.
Making ice cream for 4 or 5 hours like this?
That's it.
That's some
Come on over here. Come on
That's some
over here.
rich
Sit
ice
off the
cream.
side. Come on.
I know, we kind of
Come on, hang out with
let old Dan out in the cold over there. Grab your microphone, cowboy.
Come on over here, Big Dan.
Now, Dan,
There you go.
you are a staple anymore at motorcycle events.
That's pushing it. That's pushing it.
I always do push it a little bit here at Grease and Gears Garage, but Dan, what's your story, man? Where you from? What do you do?
I like riding motorcycles. I'm from Texas, Tin Top, Texas. I do a podcast.
Right
But
on.
I travel around and I talk to people kind of like this,
Yeah.
with less of this going on.
Sometimes less is more, absolutely.
Yeah. But this is, this is different. I don't normally talk in front of a bunch of people that aren't looking at
But
us.
now, I know your podcast must have gotten some good traction because I saw a post from a guy named Todd Matthews that used to write me checks. He posted that he was going over some marketing strategy with you. Do you remember Todd from Progressive Insurance? About that time?
Yeah, so
Yeah, you better
I was
remember
in
that
Fuel
damn
Cleveland,
man. Yeah.
and this guy walks by with a Buffalo Chip Rolling Sands t-shirt on, and I immediately just start talking shit. I thought he was a racer.
He does. He's
I
kinda
didn't
built
know who
like
he
one.
was.
Yeah, he's built
He didn't
like
look
one.
like a racer at all. He just had the shirt on.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was it. That was all that was.
All right, I thought maybe you were.
No.
Let's talk about the last month that Dan's had, because leading up to Sturgis, you've had a pretty hectic schedule.
Yeah, it started. We're in August,
Yeah, this is August.
so July.
All of July.
That was the month. That was last
Yeah,
month.
July I rode to California, did the Born Free show for the first time, raced the qualifier for the X Games.
Oh man.
That didn't go good. It didn't go good.
Didn't go good.
But you was in it, baby.
I
You
was,
was in it.
I was there.
Represent.
I fucking hyperextended my knee, my kicking foot, and I needed to ride my chopper back to Texas. And I couldn't even stand on my right foot to kick my bike with my left for about 3 days.
Oh man.
Finally, I just ignored it and rode home. Didn't make it all the way. First time in, I don't know, 3 or 4 years I didn't have an extra primary belt.
Because what are you riding? What power is your chopper?
Something like that. It's a 59 bottom end with some shovel tops and
Yeah.
a 57 frame and a wide glide that was built out of like 3 wide glides. It rides more like a Springer because there's no fluid. The valves don't work. It just clack, clack, clack.
Right
Riding it
on.
up the hill earlier was a trip.
Oh wow. So you got back to Texas, then where'd you go?
Oh, and then I went to the Run to Raton.
Right on.
JP Rodman put on an event. This is his 3rd year. He built a trike for Born Free, and then he raffled it off at this giant party he threw in New Mexico. And some fucking Yahoo from California won it. So, that was that. But we put his trike and my bike in a box truck, and we drove to Cleveland. We overnighted it, just straight taking turns, fucking the books up, and and then I rode from Cleveland to Minneapolis, stopped in Milwaukee, did some really good podcasts there, and then went to the X Games, and I got in. I couldn't even believe it. I've been watching the X Games since I was this big, and I show up at the back door on my chopper at the Milwaukee or the Minneapolis Viking Stadium, and just park it, go inside. I'm like, I'm Dan, and they were like, we don't have Dan, but are you Danger Dan? And I was like, fuck yeah, I am. They gave me the credentials, and I was in, man. I was eating all the athletes' food, watching the events from the skate ramps, right at the jumps, watching the
look at you,
freestyle. It was insane.
Yeah.
I thought somebody was going to throw me out the whole time, be like, yeah, you don't belong here. But it was real. And then they had the hooligan race on Sunday. And, dude, there was some carnage. This track they built overnight. It looked a little bit slick. There was some rubbing, man. Everybody was stoked, you know. I mean, racing for a gold medal at the X Games, you know. It wasn't like, it's just gotten to another level. And it was sweet.
Very cool.
This guy named Danny Mishler, fucking rad, dude. Had a full-on mullet, camo on his helmet. He was as redneck as he could get. When he won that thing, it was so stoked. Oh, yeah, that was good.
Takes all kinds with that. Now, and then did you come right from there?
Yeah, I rode straight here.
All right. What was your route to get here?
I went west and south. It was good. Like,
I'm not even talking to you anymore.
I took off with a bunch of Milwaukee 8s, dude. These baggers just straight fucking rolling. I don't think they could believe that I was rolling with them. But I only did it for a little bit because my bike can't do that. Like,
yeah, you don't want to do that. Yeah.
But I had to show off for a little bit.
Like I said, some of these guys do these motors a little bit harder than they need to do.
So you basically said, listen, you guys are taking some of my stank. You guys got to go on because I don't want you taking.
No. I left them behind and did 200 more miles.
Oh, okay. So you
didn't stop for the night. I just had to go a little slower pace on the road.
You either got to lay back or get ahead, and that way they don't know that you're.
I did both. I laid back and then I ended up ahead.
There you go. All right, man.
And then it was a great ride. But they were wet and juicy.
I got I had to bring a trailer because I'm not cool like you. I had 4 bikes to bring, but I got a dragonfly stuck in my windshield wiper.
Yeah.
It looks like a damn nickel cigar with wings. I
was chewing them up going down the road.
The biggest bugs, they were bad. And butterflies, tons of butterflies.
So you get up here, you had a lot of stuff to do here too. You racing up here?
So on the way here, I blew the crotch out on my pants, right? That was like not good. I was just rolling with it because it was nice airflow until a rock hit me in the belly and I put on my leather pants. And it was so fucking hot when I got here and I didn't set up camp and I went and met all you guys. And I was sweating profusely until we get to the damn burnout drag races that I didn't know I was going to be competing in.
Oh, you and I.
It starts off, Bill Dodge is like, hey, come here, meet my buddy Baker. I didn't know who Baker was. I didn't know it was the fucking Baker.
Baker, yeah.
So I go over there and Bill starts talking me up to Baker and then, the drag races are fixing to happen and then Bill goes, yeah, I did that once and I won the first one and I had to ride my bike back to New Jersey. And I was like, are you fucking calling me out, Bill? And he was like, I'm just saying. So that's when I got you, and we went over there and embarrassed ourselves.
I've got this unfinished bagger that I got here riding. It's been my transportation here, riding around. And so we get in that pit. Chris finally kicked us out. We were just embarrassed. I blew my clutch out, and you finally quit because you were smart.
Yeah, well, it wasn't embarrassment though. Neither one of you would quit. You were going to burn the box down before you walked out of there.
Something was going to break.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to add that I almost had a broken foot trying to give a good show because Dan's ass end was bouncing around and I went to grab it to hold him steady so he could entertain the crowd and the motherfucker almost ran over my foot.
Well, God bless Chris. He and somebody jumped out there trying to pick up the back end into my bike. And it was like, it's not budging. I got stuck on that side, and it was over.
Well, I'm not, listen, I'm a big guy too, so I'm not going to say anything offend you, but you could have stood up.
I was trying to, but my foot clenched. I was just like,
you're light enough that we could pick up, but he's on a bag.
he was sitting on it while you were trying to pick it up.
Because I wanted to be able to get
not a team player right there.
I'm not a team player. I lost team points at that.
You would think as many times these assholes have done this, they would kind of know what to do.
But man, you get nervous though, don't you? It's weird. I mean, you turn around and saw those people.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't paying attention. I was just mad that I couldn't do a burnout like some kind of fucking
and
rookie.
then our bikes cut off at the same time, and I'm trying to get mine started, and you're jumping on yours.
Yeah, my rubber went off the kicker, and
and then Chris finally said, "You guys are making me nervous. Just back out of here. Get out of the
nobody
box."
wanted to do it after that. It was like, oh, we don't want to look like that.
Yeah,
fuck no, we're out of here.
Those two carnival clowns there, man. Jesus.
Hey, thanks for letting us do that, Chris.
Thank God I had a second bike here.
Dude, you could have been me. I got first, second, third gear, man, wheel spinning. I hit fourth. The RPMs dumped. The wheel fucking locked up. And the clutch started spinning.
Oh, God.
I'm like, I'm still in it. Blah! Fifth gear, blah! Bill goes, you ain't spinning, bro.
Hey,
Mark Pusha-Shetty's the one that broke my heart. I thought, oh shit, I'm getting off the side now. I'm in it. He was like, ain't nothing happening, man. I'm like, but I'm doing a lot of noise.
Hey, the best was that guy.
Hey, we didn't make any smoke.
The dude who won, that old guy Red, man, he broke that rear belt, and that son of a bitch was still nailing it. I was like, you're done. And he was like, oh,
he was a smart one too, because he used his buddy's bike.
he goes,
We should've
Wyoming
bought bikes.
Cowboys, Wyoming Cowboys, whoa! And I was like, you ain't going nowhere. And he goes, hell yeah, I am. And I was like,
So I learned a lot though on doing that. I tell you, it's one thing to do a burnout. It's another thing to do burnout drags and go through all the gears. Next time, I'm using my hand to shift my gears.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm banging
Don't
it
even
through
worry
those
about the
gears.
clutch.
Yeah, I'm banging my
that's the
through
best
the
way to
gears.
do a burnout.
Is that how you do that?
That's how you do it.
That's how you do it. Just
And
no
you start
clutch.
in second gear. Chris Tice told me that.
I
You
got my
start
bike
riding,
geared way too high for that shit.
And you know what, Chris Tice, I mean, I know he's a badass, but he was one of like 24 guys that came up afterwards and said, oh, I could have won that shit.
Yeah,
Fuck that. Fuck that. Talks cheap.
I was real proud of Billy Grotto from Twisted Tea.
Dude, Billy.
Good showing, good showing.
Billy was banging it last night.
Yeah,
Billy
it
was
was.
killing it.
Yeah,
You know
it was
why I
really
didn't
good.
see any of that? Because I fucking rode off with my tail between my legs.
He did. He said, I got someplace I gotta be, man. I really
Fuck it
gotta
out.
leave. I was just so proud that you rode yours out. I put the clutch out of mine, put it in first gear, and he goes. I just went slowly through the crowd. So I'm hoping I can adjust that clutch, and there's something left to it. And I don't think there
I
is.
had to adjust mine.
On the side of the road, you said.
No, that was something else.
Oh, that was something else.
Dan, you got a wildly successful podcast.
That's still to be determined.
Oh no, man. I mean,
Hey,
you're
we
doing
feel
it.
honored. We've all been guests on there.
Yeah.
I feel honored that you would sit down with
You
me.
haven't had me as a guest. That's
You're,
cool,
you're
man.
out,
Whatever.
you're out there capturing
Whatever.
history. You're capturing the voices of the
Thank
people
you.
that are in this time, and people can check that out through Talk Shop,
DangerDanceTalkShop.com, and it's on all podcast platforms. If you don't know what a podcast is, go to tittiesforyourears.com.
Now, the best thing about this, because we've had you on before, we've talked about your podcast, we've had you in the magazine, but the best thing about it is the way that you're doing it, man, because you load up your gear and you get on the motorcycle, you're out racing, riding. Like
You know what I think the coolest thing is I've tried to keep it like all listener funded. Like everybody that listens is what makes me, like helps me be able to do this. You know, like I can't do that without the people that are listening and helping make this happen every month.
Well,
I mean,
not to interrupt you, brother, but when I was on there, man, it was one of the coolest things I've ever done because we just talk like we talk right now.
Yeah.
We're just shooting the shit. And man, next thing I know, we were like 2 hours
Hey,
in.
Roadside, that doesn't work with everybody, you know?
Oh.
But yeah,
Well,
you're
oh,
good
yeah.
at it.
Some
You're
people
really
are
good at
brutal,
it.
aren't they, dude? It's
Well,
like,
yeah, I'm sure
so
you gotta
tell me the
pull
most
it out.
exciting thing you've done lately. Well, I went to see my grandma in Florida.
See, and I like that. That's like a challenge.
Yeah,
you know, like,
you gotta pull
all right,
it
all
out.
right, all right. We gotta.
All right.
You know what's really helped is like hiding the microphone so they don't have one of these in their face.
Yeah, yeah.
Because most people I talk to don't never talked on a microphone before. So that having that in their face is kind of nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Doing it over the phone, I do that, but I'd rather not.
Let me ask you this: whenever the microphone is in there, I mean, you got to stand for it, right?
Yeah.
I gotta ask this because this is one of my fucking pet peeves.
Here.
Do they still reach for it even when it's there?
No.
No? Okay. Because whenever I'll interview somebody and I'll stick the microphone, they always want to grab it.
Yeah.
I always want to grab it.
Well, I mean, come on, in all fairness, you don't want a big burly man taking some long cylindrical thing and pointing it at your lips.
Just even without
I'm
anything
point. That is a
I'm
very
secure
good
in
point.
my manhood
Yeah,
that I can
saying.
accept that.
Well, then let him grab it, Marty.
If it's on a stand, you can come up to it on the side a little bit. You don't. I mean,
If they lean in too close, you know, he might not have sucked one, but he's had one. He's seen one up close.
Hey, now I'm sure there's plenty of guys out there that I can put one in their mouth, see if they're going to swallow it or spit it out, but I ain't one of them. I mean, come
We've
on.
gone off the rails at this point.
so my point was about how you're out there living on the road doing it. It's not always an easy proposition because you're.
Yeah, because I'm an idiot.
Well, but
and I
you're
ride
not-
a 59 motor around with a 57 for like.
And it's not like you're easy on
I
it.
should be riding at least an Evo, like
At
a
least
blockhead
an
with a 5-speed, maybe even a starter button.
Oh,
like-
man. You'll get there.
But you're not. So this requires frequent and sometimes inconvenience maintenance intervals.
Yeah. Well, so that's how the road show was born. Instead of like, most of my shows I'm talking to somebody. Some of them I just record them on my cell phone as I go on these journeys and talk about the shit on the spot as it happens on the side of the road.
One of
I'll
my favorite
stick the
ones.
phone in my pocket as I'm pushing my bike down the highway, just breathing heavy, cursing, pissed off because I don't know what's wrong. And then when I step back, and I do it in the heat of the moment. So it's like, like all the shit that you think is wrong, like in the moment, and then you like take a moment and you realize, like, oh, I'm retarded. It's just the battery. Like,
Oh, I'm just
I
out of
talk
gas.
about all of
Yeah,
that.
we're out of
The
gas.
hardest
I'm out of
thing,
gas.
the hardest thing is to put it out there. Like to be like, fuck, I'm gonna let everybody know what an idiot I am.
Hey, Chris Bill Dodge and I pulled up to the gas station the other day, and I'm on a bagger, right? Now, I've relocated the switch because Chris gave me one of the Clockworks relocation things. We'll throw that out there. It's the only free part I've gotten in like my whole life, and I love it. But Chris said he needs it, so he's gonna have to get it back. But I go and get gas. The thing starts up, runs out, and now I'm just pushing my button on my starter. And Chris is like, "What's going on, man?"
Now wait, the best part about this, we're getting ready to leave the lot across the street to ride over to get gas, and I'm having a hard time getting my bike started. And he looks at me and goes, "I just hit the button."
And so
Not 10 minutes later.
I can't start my bike, and then I look down and I realize I never turned the ignition switch on. When it's something like that, that's when it
happens.
But it's
Dude,
embarrassing, but it's
on my-
good that you share those things.
Yeah, on my way to Mexico, I took apart the entire wiring of the whole fucking bike, and it was out of gas.
Oh my God.
Like it was out of gas. Like, I mean, I had this guy on a fucking Goldwing, like helping me out. He joined the team at that point. He pulled over, and he was there until I was back on the road. And we took apart everything. I got him holding wires. I'm like, look at the lights, see if the light's coming on. And then finally, that smart ass motherfucker was like, have you checked the gas?
That
He
sucks.
waited like an hour, to say that.
A lot of help he was.
I had a Sportster that wouldn't start, and I'd ride it 6 miles and it would cut off. 6 miles and cut off. And so I replaced the whole wire. I upgraded from points to electronic ignition. Spent gobs of money. Couldn't get 6 miles and cut off. And this old man pulled up next to me. He said, I had a 53 Mercury. He used to do that when I went around a corner. He said, it's your fuel line collapsed inside. Sure enough, I pulled that sucker off, and the fuel line was vapor lock. Every 6 miles, it would pinch itself closed. Oh, that sucks when it's something just that simple. Fuel. So,
One of my favorite things was watching one of your posts on Instagram, and you're sitting there, and it's one of those little 30-second videos or whatever, and you're pushing your bike, and you're along on some sidewalk, and there's this homeless dude, and he gives you 5 as you walk by. Or did you give him a cigarette or something? You gave him a cigarette or
I don't know what happened.
something, man. I just like, that's my brother.
You know what I did this year is I was I was in the HOV lane in Miami going to Key West. And I look in my tank and there's no gas. Traffic's rolling, there's no shoulder. Like, there's 2 lanes, there's no way to get out. I don't have any gas. I literally, I started panicking, like seriously, like was not sure what the fuck I was gonna do. I get out of there, right? Run out of gas as I get off the exit. I'm in like the hospital district and there's bums everywhere. And I look up the gas station, it's not far away. I'm like, relief. I roll up a cigarette, I smoke it, start pushing my bike. I came to a drawbridge, dude. Like, there was green and a red light, and there was so much distance where I was gonna have to push my bike, like, and it was gonna take, I had to literally go out and look for boats before I started pushing my bike up this fucking drawbridge. Never would I have thought I had to, like, check for boat crossing while I'm pushing my chopper around.
That's crazy. Well, you're living a life that, you know, a lot of people will be like, oh man, Dan's living the dream. But what you're, you know, and sometimes it probably does feel like a dream. But other times it's got to be like, man, this is difficult. But what you're doing is you're keeping a very important aspect of motorcycle culture alive.
Thank you.
It is that idea of freedom on the road, you know, and that never-ending adventure and journey, man. And so, and we're missing that in our culture.
There's something to say about that too, because actual freedom at that capacity takes a big commitment.
Huge.
You know, like a lot of people from the outside, the straights look at that kind of freedom and they're like, we just give up. It takes a big commitment. It takes a big commitment, man, because you got to manage all of that. You know what I mean? You got to really have your shit together to go like that.
Well, because, you know,
I don't know. I don't know if I got my shit together, but.
Well, I mean, but you are. I mean, you're doing something for all of us that really we can live vicariously through you, and you do it in such a way that you also do it with integrity, and you know, and that's because there's some other folks out there that pretend to do what you do, but they just don't do it with integrity. You know, they roll around and, you know, they're kind of industry leeches, you know, but you do it in such a way that it, you know, it's cool. And you're showing people that life,
well,
you know.
One thing that I really admire whenever you're doing all this, brother, is, and I learned this a long time ago, when you're out on the road and something happens, if you just keep your calm and just keep cool, everything, you'll find a way to get out of that situation.
Yeah.
And I watch you and I see that, and man, that just shows people not to flip out. I mean, hey, it might. One time I was coming back from Daytona on a shovel I had, the lowrider, and it started to rain, and I hit the brake to get up under a overpass. And when I did, I felt the ass end move around. I thought I had a flat, but when I got up under the overpass, I looked, and the damn axle nut had come off. And I'm like, holy shit, how far did I ride? Oh my God, I could have been killed. I was freaking out. And then, man, I just like took a deep breath and I was just like, all right, nothing happened. Wheel didn't come off. You're all right. Just be cool. Well, I was sitting there and it was almost dark. And I was sitting there and I was like, man, I had a bottle of water or something in my saddlebag, and I pulled it out and took a drink, and I was sitting on the guardrail by the overpass, and I just happened to look down, and the board that had the guardrail, there was a carriage bolt with a nut on there, and I said, damn, hold on.
No
I grabbed my
way.
damn crescent wrench, and I took it off, and it was a 3/4 inch coarse thread nut that fit right on my axle, and the state of Florida lost 3 of them that day, because I took 2 off and put in my tool bag, and I said, hey, that man, just be cool, and a solution will present itself.
Now, in contrast to that, I was riding a shovelhead in the great state of Florida myself one night, getting late, crossing Alligator Alley, and my points weights came apart.
Ooh.
On the side of the road, in the middle of Alligator Alley. That was the hardest place I've ever tried to keep my cool in a roadside malfunction, because I'm sitting there like this. I'm like, I gotta find something to fix these points. Every time I hear it cricking and something snap a stick, I'm like, I'm in the middle of Alligator Alley, man.
They didn't want none of your Yankee ass.
I'm from Pennsylvania.
They didn't want none of your Yankee
The
ass,
hell
trust
with
me.
the
Them
hell
Florida
with an
gators got taste.
No.
I don't know. They might have been rebel gators. They might have been looking for revenge.
Come
too.
here, little Yankee boy.
You know, they might have been.
Where you from, boy?
You ain't from around these parts, and your boy.
Well, guys, we could do this all night, but I know that everybody's got places to be. Dan,
Yes, sir.
thank you for what you do. Marty, thank you for what you do.
Well, wait,
You
are we
get-
done here?
Yeah.
We want to wrap this up? You want to talk? I mean,
Where's the ice cream at?
What?
That's what Dan got out of the whole thing. Where's the ice cream at?
Oh, well,
You can lick it. Let him lick that thing.
keep turning like that. And that's how you make ice cream out of a churn. So there you go.
Later on, Roadside will slowly let you turn his crank, and I'm not even going there. I'm just
Please
leave it
don't.
alone.
Yeah, don't. All right,
No,
guys.
but this tool, if anyone out there, take a good look at this thing. If you have this tool available and would like to get rid of it, please get a hold of the Cycle Source office immediately.
It's a lapping tool, correct?
I've been looking for this.
Yes.
It's a manual lapping tool.
Roadside's dad made us sign 2 contracts and give 3 forms of ID and leave $1,000 deposit. So this thing would end up back in Florida.
I want to say the only reason that this demonstration is taking place is because Chris asked, and can you get this from your dad? So when I went to my dad, I said, hey, Chris really wants this to happen. And he goes, all right, I guess I'll let that boy borrow it, but it better come back. And I was like, okay.
So if anybody wants Chris eliminated,
Oh, please.
steal the tool.
Please,
That's
because
right.
I love this man's father about as much as I could my own father for the tough that he's taught me over the years and the things I've got from him. So it means an awful lot to me that he lets us.
Chris
come
wants
up
a
here.
manual lapping tool. Well, folks, we got the Baker drags are already going on out of the Sturgis. No, tomorrow.
That's tomorrow.
Tomorrow night. The Sturgis
Tonight is Teeny Weeny Tuesday at the Handmade Lot.
Teeny weeny
Poolside.
Tuesday.
Poolside.
Poolside.
Mini bike circle track
Do I get to
races.
see Renee in a bathing suit, Primo?
Oh.
Well, how about
It
Roy?
can't look worse than dump truck.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
Did you hear me when I said the dump truck the other night at Lichter's deal? I walked up to him, I said, I want to thank you for keeping me from sleeping any more than 15 minutes at a time. He said, what are you talking about? I said, every time I pull up Instagram, it's like, pow, there's dump truck and less clothing.
I just gotta tell you, man, I just wanna be naked. I just wanna be naked.
Stick with me, baby. Stick with me, baby.
I hate
Stick
fun.
with me, baby.
Just show everybody some love.
Pound me too.
Work it out, baby. Work it out.
All right, folks, Greasy Gears Garage. We're going to be back tomorrow with a lot of cool shit, so come back and see us. Thank you guys for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate all the
right,
kind words.
guys.